Welcome to Conversations Live. For more than a decade, we've brought you the best in books, entertainment, celebrity interviews, and current events. When the movers and shakers of the world have something to say to you, they say it to us first. Here's your host, Cyrus Webb.
Welcome back, everyone, to Conversations Live. I'm your host, Cyrus Webb. Glad you all could join us once again. But for a radio audience at WYAD 94.1 FM and WYADonline.com, we're glad that you all could be with us. Also, tuning in to our friends at iHeartRadio and Amazon Music Podcast. We're glad you all could be with us as well. We're excited to welcome author Rebecca Sheir to our program today. She's celebrating the third book in the Circle Round series. It's called The Great Ball Game. We're going to talk to Rebecca not only about what it's been like for her to see the response to this series, but also how the new book really shows the importance of coming together, working together, and what we can achieve when we do so. Rebecca, thank you so much again for the time. Really appreciate it.
Oh, thanks so much for having me. It's a thrill to be here.
So as I mentioned, this is the third book in the Circle Round series. What has it been like for you, Rebecca, to see the way that readers of all ages have really gravitated to these books?
Well, when I was in kindergarten, I dreamed of being an author-illustrator, of writing and illustrating my own books. And all these years later, I have one half of it coming true, and it is absolutely dreamy. But never did I think that I'd have readers all across the world. The podcast is heard in over 160 countries, and the book is out there as well. And it's so exciting for people from all over the place, of all walks of life, of all ages, to hear and see these stories that we're bringing to life in a new way for modern audiences.
Rebecca, is that part of the fun for you then, to not only be able to entertain, but also to get, especially young people, to be able to think and to see not only what they can do, but also what they can achieve with others?
Absolutely. With folktales, so many of them hinge on important lessons like what it means to rely on yourself, what it means to have courage, to use your imagination, to work with others. They have these important moral lessons that are imparted through the narrative, and I think that's a great way for children to learn. You can say to a kid, get along with your sister, or you can read them a story about a brother and sister who learn how to get along, and I would say the story would be a much more successful way to impart that message.
Yeah, for sure. Talk to us about the podcast, Rebecca, because anyone who follows you online, of course, know about what you've been able to do there. What has it been like for you to see the way it has grown?
It's been amazing. My husband and I create this podcast together. Eric Shimalonis is our sound designer and composer. I do all the writing and casting and narrating. And when we did the pilot for WBUR, Boston's NPR news station, we had no idea what was going to happen. We decided we would do a podcast where we turned folktales into radio plays, old-fashioned radio plays, featuring beloved voices from the stage and screen. When we did this first episode, it was adapted from a Yiddish folktale. Jason Alexander from Seinfeld played the lead. We thought, is this going to work? Is this going to be a dud? And here we are 5 years later with listeners in over 160 countries. We've done 185 episodes, and we're working, we're releasing our third out of 4 books. It is absolutely a dream come true.
Yeah. So before the book series started, Rebecca, talk to us about what your hope was. I know you mentioned, of course, being able to write and to illustrate was something that you have been passionate about for some time. But could you have imagined that this would be your introduction to the world in books, a series like this?
I never could have imagined it. Before doing Circle Round, I was an NPR host and reporter, telling grown-up stories to grown-ups, and I kind of assumed that's what I would always do. But when my husband and I had our son, we decided to pivot, quit our full-time jobs, start a company together doing audio, and then Circle Round kind of dropped into our laps, and it has been amazing, taking these stories from around the world and thoughtfully and carefully adapting them into a podcast that really resonates with modern audiences.
You're gearing up for a event coming up for audience that's joining us online in particular, Rebecca. And so one of the things, of course, when we see or hear these days about virtual, maybe 2 years ago, we would have said, what exactly is that? And now I think we all know what virtual is and hybrid. So I want to talk to you about that. What has that marriage been like for you? Because now you are able to meet people in person, but also to have this worldwide appeal thanks to the internet. What has that been like for you to kind of have the best of both worlds that way?
It's been amazing. With listeners in 160 countries, we can really, at this point, only perform live in our part of the country. Eric and I are based in Massachusetts, so we've been to Massachusetts and Maine, New York State, Vermont. But now, with these virtual events, we can have our listeners in London or Nairobi tuning in, listeners in the Philippines and Sydney. Time zones might not work out so well, but the last event we did, it was live in Boston, but also virtual. And when the audience Q&A happened, we had people asking questions from all over the world. And that was such a thrill to be able to interact with these folks that we've been telling stories to now for 5 years.
And talk about the marriage of the words and, of course, I mean, the illustrations. Talk to us about that. What was it like for you to see the Great Ball Game when you first were able to hold it?
When I first saw Joshua Powis Stuckley's illustrations, he's an Ojibwe woodland artist, I just swooned. I write for the ear. That is what I do when I was an NPR host and reporter, and even now with Circle Round. And I have sort of a vision in my mind of what the characters look like. But when I saw his pictures, I thought, yes, that is the only way they could possibly look. It's just so vivid, it's so vibrant, and it's so authentic. He's been steeped in this culture growing up, as an Ojibwe woodland artist. It just there's an authenticity to it. There's an integrity to it. And I think people all over the world are just going to love seeing these illustrations that accompany what's a very, very fun tale.
Yeah, exactly. The last thing I want to talk about, and not to spoil anything for the audience, Rebecca, but with the Great Ball Game, one of the things that really stands out as a lesson for me is don't think that because you may be a certain age or a certain stature or looked at a certain way that you can't make a difference. I think that's one of the things we get from this book. Is that one of the lessons that you hope does kind of come away from the Great Ball Game?
Absolutely. This story resonates now more than ever. It was written a very long time ago. But here you have a world where there are no humans yet. It's just the animals and the birds. And they're fighting about who's better, who's superior. And they decide to settle the score by playing a great ball game. And they're about to jump into the game when this new critter shows up. His name is Bat. They've never seen him before. And he asks, which side can I play on? Can I play with you? Can I play with you? And the animals take one look at him and say, oh, you've got wings. You do not belong on the animal team. And the birds say, well, you don't belong on the bird team. You've got fur and teeth. And I don't want to give away the ending too much, but adventures ensue, and there are very valuable lessons imparted about the importance of diversity and difference and nonconformity and inclusivity. No matter what people look like, where they come from, we can all get together and be stronger for it.
Such a great point and such a great lesson. Again, everyone, Rebecca Sheir has been our guest. Make sure you guys do pick up your own copy of the new book, The Great Ball Game, and the other books in the Circle Round series for sure. And, Rebecca, how can they stay connected with you?
Well, you can follow us on social media. On Twitter, we are at @ComeCircleRound, and on Facebook and Instagram, we are at Circle Round Podcast. And you can find us wherever you get your podcasts. Just look for Circle Round.
Congratulations again, Rebecca, and thank you so much for the time. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. It's been fun.
And we thank your audience for tuning in to another great segment of Conversations Live. Until next time, I'm your host, Cyrus Webb, saying as always, enjoy your day, enjoy your life, enjoy your world. Thank you all for choosing Conversations Live. So let's go make today amazing. Take care.